concert tours worldwide, 11 studio albums that span 4 decades, the Titans of Thrash remain the standard by which all other metal is measured. We begin with a 1984 classic from their second album, For Whom the Bell Tolls, followed by the 1992 tour anthem, Wherever I May Roam. And now, let's turn down the house and light up the stage with the Auburn University Marching Band and their show, Metallica.
It is Sunday afternoon, but that still means it's time for another edition of the Auburn Experience podcast, the flagship show of everything we do here at E2C Network, where we share that Auburn experience. Episode 113 coming your way with 2 major topics and tons of news in the Auburn potpourri segment. Let's get into it right now. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you can qualify it through a variety of methods, time, people, places, and things. But at its heart and at its core, the Auburn experience is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and Auburn family stuff. If you want me to put a finer point on it, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you so much for joining us in what we're going to do on episode 113 of the Auburn Experience podcast. I am your main co-host, Kyle. Alongside me, as always, the better co-host, Mr. Austin Scott. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. War Eagle to you. War Eagle to our listeners and viewers on a little bit earlier if you're catching us live. The quote unquote big game is tonight, so we're a little bit earlier.
Can we not say it? Like, is that like, are we going to legitimately get in trouble? If
I've always heard that there's certain ramifications around that. I'm going to venture out and say that we're probably okay. But I have always heard, and I actually listened a little closer today on the radio, like the live radio. I think it's a big no-no. I heard a lot of the big game stuff today. So,
which is so weird. Why would you not want people to talk about it? I just don't understand.
Money, Kyle. Trademarks.
Right. Make more money by people talking about it so that they'll watch it, so that they'll see the advertisements and stuff. I don't know. Listen, I know this isn't Auburn related.
I'm with you.
It's just there are certain things that you look at in marketing, you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And there are things like this, and I just scratch my head at. Sorry, this is I guess this isn't the Auburn Experience podcast. This is Kyle Rants About Marketing podcast. Already 2 minutes into the show. But hey, listen, y'all do your thing. Do what you want to do. The Uber Bowl, as I call it, is at hand. And certainly that's played a little bit havoc with our schedule today. Speaking of the big game, let's start off Auburn potpourri right there. Now, we are recording this obviously right before it happens. We are an Auburn focus show, and we're going to find ways to relate it back to that. One way we could talk about it, Austin, is, the Eagles could have they should have some luck on their side, having used our Eagles.
Are they going to have our eagle fly during the big game?
I kind of hope not, because I get worried when our Eagles go over there and around NFL fans. That's, I mean, sorry, all you NFL, like big time fans out there, y'all a little rowdy sometimes.
That's right.
Not that college fans aren't, but hey, listen, just throwing a little love the Eagles' way. You're probably seeing this after the fact, and the result, good or bad, but at least we could give them a little bit of our essence and let them use the Eagles during some points of the season. But let's give some recognition, win or lose, to Auburn people who are a part of the rosters. Now, there may be some people that are working in, I would call it administration or other facilities as part of those different teams, but 2 players that we want to give recognition to are one Jack Driscoll and one CJ Uzama, 2 very familiar names, not too removed from Auburn for us not to remember them very fondly, especially I think CJ, and with having such a great name, I just love saying Uzama every time he catches a ball or something like that. They are on injured reserve type of situation. So, unfortunately, I feel like we talk about this a lot, Austin. There's a lot of Auburn guys that make the big game. Got to be careful there, but they always are injured at the end of the year or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, they won't get to see the field tonight due to injury, but definitely something that in their career they've been working toward, and hopefully they'll come out on the right side of it tonight. We hope for those Auburn men. So pretty cool to see them represented, and you never know. I mean, Auburn could sneak up and be a talking point tonight at some point. You never know what could happen in a commercial or throughout the game. So we'll have to see.
Listen, Auburn finds a way to infect the entirety of culture because we're just that awesome. big game or not, whether it's players being there like Jack, like CJ. We're going to find a way to insert ourselves into popular culture and remind you, hey, we're still here.
Right.
And we're still pretty awesome too. So congrats to Jack. Congrats to CJ for just making the big game as part of a team that's in there. And we wish, obviously, in the future, but we wish everybody all the best there. Moving right along at Auburn Potpourri, we do want to talk about some more recent news. And this has been a big talking point over the last probably several weeks. Things before, things now after. A lot of talk about expansions, a lot of talk about renovations to facilities for sports. And if you remember last week, we did a lot of legwork trying to get you all more informed, better prepared to have discussions about the North End Zone project, the continuation of that now, and the future for renovating Neville Arena for the betterment of all programs, but especially men's and women's basketball practice facilities and team stuff like that. So that got officially approved today, or not today, but last Friday by the Board of Trustees. And I don't think you and I are shocked by this, Austin, but it's nice to have that one official on the way now.
Yeah, I think when you hear about these kind of things, the Board of Trustees vote is more of a formality.
Right.
It's rarely let's wait and see what happens. But I think that is a good thing to be official and confirmed, especially the North End Zone. I don't think you want that to be any worry about it being completed, since it's literally halfway done. So good to see that will look like it's going to be on schedule ahead of the 2025 football season. And then, like we talked about at length last week with Neville Arena, very good step for the basketball programs, as well as all those who use that space. So good to see that's confirmed, and we look forward to seeing what all it looks like.
So do you still believe, as we've said here, you should always read the fine print? Yes, but just read the dang article, here's a great idea too, folks. The Board of Trustees notes are available to everybody. Go check them out. Do you still believe that there will be some form of expansion, true expansion, not just premium, in that end zone once this next phase is done? Where do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they've been pretty transparent all along. They're setting this up for a spot that increases capacity, but also increases premium seating, which is something Auburn fans have been asking for Jordan-Hare Stadium to have for a long time. So I think that this continues to provide the legwork for that. Now, I don't think that plan is as far as long as what we currently know about the North End Zone. That will have to come as a phase 3, I guess you could say. But I definitely still believe that's the plan. And I'm hopeful that, we're not always privy to everything, nor should we be. But I think that there's probably a behind the scenes plan of what that looks like long term.
Yeah. And obviously we're just moving forward with the basketball renovations. There's got to be, what do we call it? Conceptualization put out there and stuff like that, if we even get to see all that stuff. So we're just in the early phases of that, with that being initially approved and moving forward in that. So obviously, as we get more updates here at the Auburn Experience, we'll talk about it if it's worth doing a conversation about. But certainly, please all go check out the articles, the releases in full. If you want more information, we brought that up to you guys in last week's episode 112, if you want to get all that. Next in Auburn Potpourri, we got some clarifications for next year's football schedule. We already know games. He's already shaking his head. We got dates. I know. Hold on. But this week, the news for the Auburn football schedule for 2025 was what 2 games are going to have some special events happening around them. One of those being homecoming. Before we go on a rant, let me just say it. Homecoming will officially be the 3rd game of the season. The second home game of the season. That will be South Alabama. No shocker that you choose an easy opponent for that. I mean, it's an in-state school. Once again, somebody's not afraid to play in-state schools, even for homecoming. One other school is in the state. But hey, it's once again, we're talking about homecoming in September. I know you want to say it. We're going to give our rants.
I don't know if I want to say it at all,
but it's always nice to know, because this is something you and I talk about a lot here. Yeah. Homecoming is such a special weekend, no matter when it is. And I think everybody needs to remember that they should come take a part in it. Oh,
absolutely. I think the argument there is, imagine how special it could be if we weren't dying, if we weren't dying of heat. but it is. You're right. We will talk about it as it leads up to it, especially here in 7 months, and the special moments that we feel about homecoming, coming back home to Auburn. So it's good to know that's on the books. I don't know. I texted in our Conquer Club the minute I saw it. I just don't understand. Everybody, I feel like I understand the premise has always been you want to win your homecoming and pick. I totally get that. I think that the general collective idea of that has kind of gone by the wayside, and it's just been convenience. For whatever reason, Auburn has decided not to go with that direction, and instead, we're all going to die of 95-degree heat in the stadium. So it is what it is. One day they'll give us an October homecoming. I believe it. And when that day happens, there will be confetti and fireworks popping in this episode.
I was about to say, what would you do? Like, what would you be willing to do for an October homecoming?
A lot. I just, it makes everything better, right? Like, it's just, I don't care too much about the Miss Homecoming presentation, but as in it doesn't affect me personally.
I got what you.
Thank
you for that clarification.
You know what I mean?
I got you.
It's very important to those women and their causes they've dedicated.
Reel it back.
But I have less desire to sit there and watch it when it's 95 degrees and I'm like, hey, the game's on. I could go stand in the bathroom stall and get some AC if I want to. If it was October, I might be a little more excited to watch the homecoming presentation. I don't know. All that said, good to know. There's another date that they gave us.
Yes,
though.
And this one we don't have any qualms with, and we shouldn't because, frankly, how dare we? Military Appreciation Game is going to be versus Kentucky on November 1st. You typically see that one with Texas A&M, but no Texas A&M at home this year.
No Texas A&M at home, and I actually always enjoy this one a lot because it's a lot cooler weather, and you always know it's about November and a little bit later. The staff's going to have on their long sleeve, warm camouflage for military appreciation. So I don't know. Maybe one day we can appreciate the military in the heat and do homecoming in the winter. I don't know.
Listen, I totally thought you were about to just go on this nice patriotic and appreciative reasoning for why you love the Military Appreciation Game. And I know you do, truly.
I do. But I appreciate it all the more when I'm not dying of thirst.
Well, no matter what, I always love the Military Appreciation Game because it is, they usually do that special thing with the band where they recognize all the different branches and have people stand up and get you in your feels a little bit.
Oh, so you mean that you look forward to the halftime performance of the band because it's not as hot as
oh my goodness, I didn't think
early August.
Yes, I do. So those decision makers out there, we know you got a lot on your plate. We're just asking for an opportunity to celebrate homecoming in decent
weather.
Asking
for much.
I'm really not asking for much. Listen, we know we put it at risk for losing it if we're playing SEC opponents, but
people have blamed me for losses for far less on this show. If we lose our homecoming and it's in the middle of October, I'll take it.
That's what he will take every responsibility for every loss in Auburn sports.
Just forward that email to me every time. I'm happy to do that.
And he will respond to everything. Just give him a homecoming in October.
Yes.
Our crusade continues, and I have a feeling it'll continue on and on and on.
For a long time.
Okay. Last thing at Auburn Potpourri. Let's give some acknowledgement to what a start for softball this weekend. We previewed him last week and talked about how that was getting going, gave you some early thoughts about that, and hosted 3 different teams: Southern Illinois, App State, and UNC. 2 games with UNC, 2 with Southern Illinois, 1 with App State. Auburn is 5-0 in the Malvo. Look at that, rhymes. The Malvo era. What a great start for them.
Yeah, really cool to see. I was out of town this week and did not get to really keep up with it as much until after the fact. Got to look at some scores, read some stories, see some highlights toward the end of each day. But very impressive start, very cool start. A lot of offensive firepower, not something I think a lot of us were expecting off the bat. But very cool off the bat. You like that?
I did.
Very cool to see. Always love seeing, the first win of the Malvo era, all the assets they had ready for that. I'm sure they were very happy to get to use it at the first chance they possibly could.
Yeah, it's awesome to get off to a great start for them in their new era. And look, these early tournaments sometimes you're supposed to win a lot of them, but let's not mince any words here. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Auburn had to come
Right.
back twice, I think, and from decent margins to maintain this undefeated record. And it's not going to last forever. You're playing in the SEC, whether we're talking about basketball, whatever. It's tough to win. And you're going to play other great opponents in out of conference too. So great start for the Malvo era. We're excited to continue to watch it, whether it's the firepower on offense. Just nice to be back in Jane B. Moore, or just seeing how this pitching staff takes shape in a new era for it as well, having its star Matty Pentagon and so many others that have been there for so long. It's just a new refreshing start and a new exciting time and a great start at 5-0 for the Malvos in Auburn softball. That's going to do it for Auburn Potpourri. We now want to move into our first major topic this evening. Let's talk about basketball, Austin. Let's do it. Let's try to break it all down. Can you tell from the demeanor so far that this isn't as exciting of a week to talk about?
Well, it's been a while. It's been a few episodes since we've had to deal with a loss, right? I want to go ahead and first off out the bat say I was not at the game. So I didn't get any texts, but I thought I was going to get some blaming me.
There was.
I totally missed them if there were.
No, not in our Conquer Club Discord, but in the post-game chat, we had a lot of asking, was Austin there?
I wasn't there.
Have been there. Yeah, he wasn't there.
So I still remain undefeated. I just want to say that. And maybe if I had been there, we would have won. That's all I'm going to say. So, no, we talked about it long before the SEC slate started that Auburn was going to lose games. That, like Kyle just said with SEC softball, SEC basketball is all the more, if you haven't been paying attention this year, competitive.
Sure.
And there's no one's getting through this unscathed. Auburn was the final one to go down, but into a very good team. So not all that surprising. I think there are definitely things that were surprising about the way the game happened and how that worked out. But
yeah,
we've got another game to talk about first before we get into yesterday's.
Yeah.
I need to slow my roll here.
I know that's fine. We can always do them out of order too if we need to, but I do think we probably need to talk about the good to remind everybody that the sky isn't falling. Because look, you've always got fans that are unreasonable and don't know how to think that just because they have the access to social media that they can say things. And the question is not that you can, should you think about these things. But I think especially, I complimented our audience by and large last night. I thought everybody had a really good feel for this and understood this was coming. This was going to be something that we had to deal with, and hopefully it was going to be against a good team. So we'll talk about that. Let's talk about the good first, and that is how we started the week. Auburn versus Oklahoma. Your final score 98-70. The Tigers welcome the Oklahoma Sooners as SEC opponents for the first time. Certainly, we played them 3 seasons ago here in the Big 12 SEC Challenge.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think we won that one, and they were pretty decent that year as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. That wasn't Trey Young's year, but it would have been. Yeah, the kind of star before they had him. I can't remember.
Buddy Hield.
Buddy Hield, I think we played them.
Okay. But we've had some success.
It's been there.
Yeah. It's been there at Neville Arena, and it continued with 98-70. I mean, just a pretty dominant performance. I think Oklahoma kind of did what a lot of SEC teams do. They show a little fight and a little fire early, but the Janai Broom, the Tigers were just too much down the stretch. I think for me, the big thing, Austin, that stuck out in this game was the chippiness of maybe all sides, but especially on the Oklahoma side. What were your thoughts about all of the extracurricular that was going on throughout that?
Yeah, I'm actually rethinking too. Buddy Hield was several years ago, but there was another time, I think Jabari's year, they played Oklahoma as number one.
Yes.
And it might have been Porter Moser's first year there. Regardless.
Yeah.
Well, I was surprised by the chippiness at first, and then it kind of, you started seeing people put some dots together. There were former teammates playing against each other, some guys who knew of each other a little more. And I think when you've got that relationship off the court, no matter how good, bad, or whatever it is, there's an extra level of things can get heated there. Miles Kelly had a former teammate at Georgia Tech that was at Oklahoma. That definitely added to some things. He certainly had some opinions of his own. And it was early on. I think that, I don't pretend that referees have an easy job. I don't pretend they have I think there are things that we all think they can do better in certain situations. I certainly don't want to ever be in their position.
Sure.
I do think that there were some things they could have done to help the escalation of that. I think when you let certain things go on, this is kind of regardless of any sport, then things can the envelope keeps getting pushed. And that ended up being the case with just not allowing certain things to happen. If they'd called some warning technicals, things like that early on, and I think it just bubbled over. A lot of personalities on each team that kind of led to that. But, I liked what Coach Bruce Pearl said after the game, that he told his guys, you need to worry about playing for Auburn, who's on your front chest, and the name on your back that you represent, whether it be your family, yourself, or whoever, and calm them down. There is no shortage of personalities on Auburn's team. It's what a lot of us that pull for them love about them, and what a lot of people that don't pull for them can't stand about them. I think when they rein those in, they're at their best and they can use that. But sometimes it gets away from them. And I think that was a good teaching moment.
It was. And I think obviously some of you know what we're talking about here. Certainly the name that gets thrust forward there is Chad Baker-Mazara. And
Sure.
He is quite the lively personality. He loves to be in the middle of things. And sometimes he's very good at pulling the other things, which he did against Oklahoma, out of them and making it affect them and forcing them to play off of their game, which is a very good skill to have when kept in check. I think, a lot of times people want to get on their high horses about a guy like Chad, and they see those moments, which, whether you agree that or not, that should have happened. They ignore all the good that comes with Chad Baker-Mazara and the very character moments that he shows as a teammate, as a person. And I saw a lot of that being reflected on social media this week when these type of things come up and prop up with Chad. Certainly the broadcast team called it out right away. They said, if they don't get a hold of this, Chad's about to start stirring this up with them because Oklahoma started this. And sure enough, it kind of escalated that. And we ended up watching almost felt like 3-hour game.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Because of how they had to rein things in and things like that. I think we've got obviously a lot of teams like Oklahoma who they're already a little bit vulnerable because they're coming into the SEC. They're used to being a traditional power in basketball. Auburn is the new power in basketball, one of the powers. Those of you that are going to take issue with me saying that, other fans, I'm aware we lost. We're going to talk about it, but we're still a power. Okay. It's all right. We lost 2 games to, number 2 number 6 teams, I guess. I think Duke was number 6 when we lost, if I'm not mistaken, or close to it. Anyway, the Oklahoma game went well in the results, and certainly it was a good way to start off the week. That Florida game that we witnessed yesterday at the time of our recording here, I think frustrating is a fair statement for fans to have, but you're at home. You would expect to put together a very solid performance across the board, even if you lose. I think if you look at how the whole game stretched out, you're going to walk away feeling frustrated by it. What I found interesting, Austin, with the Florida game is when we do our post-game streams, I walk through individual stats, then team stats, and talk about the storylines in that. And as we wrap up with the team stats part, time and time again, Auburn and Florida were trading stat categories they each won. Super close. There was like one area that I think had a little bit of an advantage of us in, but it was countered by something else. The difference for me in this game, Florida shot out of their minds. It's at least to start off the game. And I think that's it. They just had an outstanding offensive game, and credit to them.
Yeah, a friend of mine, it wasn't serious. He was just joking around and said, have we been figured out? Has Auburn been figured out? And I said, I think, yeah, if you've got the recipe for Auburn, how to beat Auburn, you shoot over 50%, you shoot over 40% from 3, and you get multiple second. If you can do that every time, then yeah, you got them figured out. But also you got everybody else figured out in the country, because it was an unbelievable shooting performance. And I'm not saying that, they did that and that was out of character for they're a very good team, very well coached team. Walter Clayton Jr. is one of the best guards in the country, and he played like it after being out for a week. To have come back and do something like that and shoot like he did, I thought they shot out of their mind. Now, I certainly think that there are things, and they will be discussed, I'm sure, this week in practice and film studies, that Auburn could have done better. There were lackadaisical closeouts on those 3-point shots. There were free throw issues, just an uncharacteristic defense from Auburn at times. But I think, like we've said before, this loss was going to come. I think Bruce Pearl told you post game he felt like a letdown game was coming, and thankfully it's to one of the top 5 best teams in America right now. But it gives Auburn something to work through. Nobody wants to lose. I don't want to lose. I never want Auburn to lose. I can't stand it. But I think when you're being realistic, you knew this was going to happen, and it's not a bad thing to have happen, especially in the time we're in. We're about early February. We're just a month and a half away from the first round of the tournament. It never looks good, or never tends to go well for teams who just undefeated coast their way into that tournament, because there's just not been a lot of adversity to fight through and kind of learn from and see where you're at. Of course, I'm talking moral victories here. I totally understand that. I would have loved nothing more than to say we beat Florida yesterday. But when you look at what actually happened, I don't think it's a bad thing to see where Auburn has weaknesses, because they do. They're humans, and they're totally normal people, and there's things to get better from. But what a heck of a game from Florida! What a heck of a job! We've talked about before, I think probably most recently last year with SEC championship game. Todd Golden and our staff are very close. There's no secrets there, and so I think we echo similarly. When he has success, Bruce Pearl and Stephen Pearl are very proud and excited for him. So it stinks that it's him, but also, if someone who has been with the Pearls as long as he has can't get it done, then there might be something different there. So good for them. It's a great game. I hope we get another chance at them.
I think we will. I think you're going to see Auburn, Florida, probably Alabama, be the top 3 teams going forward. And let's talk about this irregardless of polls when you're viewing or listening to this, because whether or not you know how that's going to shake out right now, there's still a conversation that could be had. You've now seen Florida take down number 1 Tennessee and number 1 Auburn, and I believe that was at Tennessee too. Am I correct in that, or was that at Florida? Do you know?
They at Florida, they lost when they had the return trip. Yeah.
Okay, so either way, they've taken down a number 1 team twice, and that's pretty impressive. And I think Todd Golden, I listened to the press conference with him after, he talked about this is a resume changer for us to add that to what we've already done. So folks, take that. That's them saying that about Auburn, that beating Auburn changes the postseason for us. Think about that. That doesn't happen in very recent past history. But I do think we're talking about some of the best teams here. So what do you think? Where does it shake out in those dynamics? You've got Auburn, who's been number 1 for the longest time, has only lost to top quality opponents, 1 on the road, 1 at home. You've got Alabama, who's kind of had a mixed bag of things. Florida, who mixed bag, but probably has the 2 biggest upsets this year. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that tomorrow, just my guess, you're going to see Auburn, Alabama, and Florida somewhere in the top 3. I think Duke is going to fall to 4.
By the way, Duke fans, you lost, so you can shut up.
Yeah, the amount of grandstanding in between the buzzer at Neville Arena and the tip of Clemson
got a little premature there.
Goodness gracious. Anyway, I think you're going to see them fall to 4. The unfortunate part, and the part I'm not sure what's going to happen, is with Tennessee, who was 4. They have 4 losses, but they won this week. Do you drop them after a win? It's all very strange. But I think you're going to see Alabama, Auburn, and Florida in the top 3 in some order. I lean, and I'm trying not to do it with orange and blue glasses, I lean Auburn, Alabama, Florida in that order.
Well, let's not even think about it from a ranking standpoint. I'm simply just saying, who is better still with the information that you have? And you would still say that Auburn is still the better team by a small margin from those other 2?
I think so. I think that margin shrunk, of course, when you lose to one of the other teams. I think that's the case. But, the resume still stands. I think there's a lot to be made for the case that Auburn's still the best team in the country, still the SEC. Now, Auburn and Alabama especially still have, I think, the top 2 remaining conference strength of schedules to go. So they will be tested, including next weekend when they face off. So there's still a lot to be determined, but I think I think it's pretty obvious to me those three have separated themselves, with Tennessee in the second tier close behind. I think those three have separated themselves from the rest of the conference.
Certainly. I think we are seeing the people at the top separate themselves a little bit. You still got, your Arkansas, your Kentuckys, and a few others that are fighting to get into that, stay in that conversation. But you're looking at some of the best in the SEC and the best in college basketball right now. So enjoy it, folks. Don't be afraid of it. Enjoy this. It's just fun to talk about. You're got a huge matchup coming up next Saturday, and it's going to get even better. Real quickly, I do want us to acknowledge that the first official camp out that was organized in the new way that we discussed several episodes ago happened, and it began right after the end of the Oklahoma game, and it seemed like things went off without a hitch. Camping was just all over the place. Players were out there handing out food. Other teams showed up to support the students. I love this. Again, I think we have lost a little bit of that natural energy that just kind of builds and builds.
Agreed.
You have to organize it more, but to see the response was still encouraging. And as far as I can tell, Austin, it went great.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought the same thing. I think it was kind of just the nature of things. You're going to lose some of the organic excitement and passion of it. But most of all, it was safe. It was safe, and it seemed like everybody got in that wanted to get in. And I like that they, this is not a new thing, but I like that they had the video board out there.
Yep.
There were the softball games were on, all those kind of things to help just contain things. So we'll see how it goes from here on out. This will not be the last camp out game of the year. I have no doubt. So, but I think it certainly for the first time around looked like it was a good hit.
Over under on when the students start camping out for Auburn, Alabama to end the year. I mean,
oh gosh. I mean, well, you got to factor in too, the week leading up to that is the last week before spring break.
Right.
They're not going to care about class in the least bit. So I mean, look, this week was 5 minutes after the buzzer sounded against Oklahoma. So it wouldn't surprise me whenever that last home game before Alabama is, if they're out there.
What I want the student who listens to this clip or whatever, if you will tag us, hey, we are out here and we are ready. Just let us know. Obviously, they're gonna let you know when you start camping, but I want to know the second.
Let us know who's the first one.
We will give you a shout out and then some, because we love that dedication. Wish we could still be a part of it. But all in all, a great basketball week, even with a loss. If you had to lose to someone, you lost to one of the best in college basketball, and congrats to the Florida Gators. Another week is at hand for us, and we'll see how it shakes out and talk about it next week. Our final big topic this evening, we're going to keep the theme going last week. The Diamond Sports are underway officially for softball, who we've already talked about a little bit, and great start for them. But the official opening weekend is at hand for Auburn baseball. Start playing it right now. I wish I could when let's not get dinged, but center field by what's his name? I
know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
Every time. I love that. And I just want to say this too. Whether I'm in the stadium watching from the parking deck, I just got to commend whoever's running the DJ stuff up there for the baseball pregame, especially. I don't know what they do, but they work magic just getting me in the vibe of just sitting out
Always
there.
A good job.
Just like, I don't know what every time I just sit back and I'm like, it don't get much better than this. I mean, just hanging out together, enjoying baseball and getting ready for baseball in that sense. So as you can tell, I'm excited. I'm excited to come to maybe a few more series and games this year. Let's maybe start there about this year and just general overview, expectations, maybe a year of a disappointment last year, which was very shocking in a lot of ways, especially when we talked about pitching. But where's your head at, Austin? This is our preview. Where are you at with this baseball 2025 season?
I think there's a lot of excitement. Obviously, a really good job well done by Butch and the coaching staff on doing a good job in the portal. Again, recruiting high school guys that can come in and make an impact, who are very valued in the national ranks. I got the chance to kind of go to a preview event for Auburn baseball earlier this week, and got to hear from some of the players and the coaching staff, and just very cool to see that they are not shying away from the disappointment that was last year. Very well aware of it, but certainly left a bitter taste in their mouths and want to do better, and are focused and have been working really hard to have a better year. So very cool to see. There's a lot of leadership on this team, whether it's Derek Fabian, Ike Irish, Cooper McMurray, Parker Carlson, all those guys. There's lots of veterans on this team who have seen success and know what that's like, but have also, know that they didn't meet standards last year. So I think you got to be excited about this team. Excuse me, goodness, I'm just choked up about them. I just can't wait for Auburn baseball. But the always fun thing to ask at the very end of one of those preview things is, are you just ready to face somebody else? And they just couldn't be more emphatic that we can't wait to see other pitchers, other hitters, and what that looks like. So they're excited. I'm excited. It's going to be a fun year regardless. It always is. I
like what you said about talking about there's people who have seen the success, because I think in a year like last year, which was very disappointing, we forget about that special season beforehand. The Ike Irishes is there, the Cooper McMurrays were there, or whoever was still there. And there's several of those names that have seen high points and have seen the low points. And so they're going to know, as leaders of this team, having been here for a while now, hey, this is what didn't work. This is what worked. Let's lead in this way. Let's do things this way. Those small, intangible things that we as fans don't get to see are going to be what help them respond to adversity, which will crop up. Again, I'm going to say a very overused phrase. You're playing in the SEC. Doesn't matter the sport. It's going to get tough. That's when things fell off for Auburn last year. And certainly that looks to be a murderer's row for them again, with who they're going to be facing home, away in the SEC. And let's not forget that there's great baseball being played in non-conference too. Before we talk a little bit more baseball, let's acknowledge the newness of this year. And that is the new additions to Plainsman Park, which officially are not going to be completed until next year, because there's some other team stuff that's going to happen. I'm sure some touch-ups of things that they're rushing to get done. It seems like they're on a pretty good timeline, though. The new first base premium seating, which we've gotten some recent videos for you on YouTube and other social media if you want to go check that out. It's going to be about 2 weeks old at this point, but it'll give you a good perspective of what's there. War Eagle Wall will officially be available to stand on top of and watch a baseball game. I cannot wait to do that, cool. Austin. There's been dreams of that, speculation of that. Could we ever do that? And now it's here. And it's just another thing to kind of add. Auburn and Plainsman Park has always been this amalgamation of a lot of different things, inspirations from Fenway, whatever, Camden Yards. And that adds to that even more now with the Big Green Monster for Fenway having people on top of it as well. So what are you most excited about? What sticks out to you the most that people are going to get to experience the first time as the fan experience this year?
Yeah, a part of that event I was talking about earlier, we got to go and kind of see a home run derby style type thing. So got to see some things from inside the park, and everything just looks nice. It's incredible to see just the differences. Not that Plainsman wasn't nice, but it had not had some significant updates in a while. So to see those things kind of come to fruition were very neat. The War Eagle Wall, I'm one of those who's just been dreaming about that opportunity for a long time. It is truly like nothing anyone else has in college baseball.
Right.
And so for it to be at Auburn is very cool. I envy the person. I know it won't be me because I'm not coordinated enough. I envy the person who catches the first home run ball up there. Because that will be very neat.
Please be careful. Please
be careful. But there should be plenty of opportunities throughout the season. So just really cool. I think people are going to love that. I hope it brings more people out to the ballpark. Auburn has never had an issue with baseball attendance, but I think, a steady in this early era with non-conference and things like that, it gives a chance for more people to come out and see what's been going on.
Yeah, I would say that probably side of the ballpark has always been the more energy side, because you have all the people that sit out there in the terrace seating where you bring your own chair and stuff like that. That's already going to enclose and encapsulate things a little bit more, having people up on the War Eagle Wall. You already have the additions we talked about last year with the deck out there that people can walk up to, and the students especially. So there's so much to be excited about and to talk with, whether we're talking about, whatever aspect of it. So Austin has lost his power, and so it looks like I'm going to do the rest of the show unless he can get back on here. So we will leave him blank there for right now, and I will this is the part of the show. We've never encountered this before. I'm going to be honest with you. We have never encountered a live show where Austin loses power. So if he can get back in, I will let him give some more thoughts to round things out. What I'm going to do in the meantime is what we're going to do anyway, is take a little bit of a look at the schedule. And we've done this now. Don't be shocked. We've done this before. We've done other episodes where we've discussed the non-conference, the SEC schedule. So I'm not going to be able to go into great detail at all in this. And, we want to be good with y'all's time too on this. Obviously, you need to know what's first up for this opening weekend. Holy Cross. I mean, I would say like Holy Cross. Holy Cross, the school, which Austin even told me, I'm going to throw him under the bus here. Like, that's so interchangeable with like High Point and all these other smaller schools out there that just feel like they get thrown in at the beginning of the season. But not taking them for granted. Is their opening series this weekend, February 14th through the 16th. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Get used to it, folks. Get used to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes it'll be Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Then you got your Tuesday or Wednesday or Tuesday and Wednesday game. There'll be a Tuesday and Wednesday this week, Troy and North Alabama. That's your first week of Auburn baseball. So get excited about that. You'll get to see a series. You'll get to see two in-state schools. One of the things that I love about the non-conference, is the fact that we get to see so many of the in-state schools and talk about them some, because I do love helping give them some notoriety too. And when you play teams like Auburn and Alabama, that's a good thing. So if you want to peruse through the rest of the schedule, certainly do that. Auburn's going to be involved in a premier event early in non-conference where they take on Ohio State, Oregon State, and Baylor. A good chance for them to make some headway there and getting some attention. Old Dominion's coming here for a series, so it'll be a fun non-conference. Murderers Row, SEC, folks. Vanderbilt to start off the year. That is, I believe, at Auburn. Yes, the schedule that I'm looking at is where it laid out just a little bit of a weird way. But a Murderers Row for the SEC, starting out with welcoming Vanderbilt here. You're also going to have a series with Kentucky, with Georgia. Both of those are on the road. Hosting Alabama, hosting LSU. You're going to be at Texas. So your first crack at Texas or Oklahoma in conference play as a baseball program. You're going to be hosting Mississippi State. Big connections there with Butch Thompson being a former assistant manager there. I know it's kind of like the Bruce Pearl effect now. We've talked about it enough. It's out there. So I guess we can start to let that narrative die, but it's still a factor there. Tennessee visiting them. That should be a fiery one. And then you've also got South Carolina hosting them to round out the year on May 11th, if I've got everything pulled up here. Don't forget, I'm leaving out a bunch of midweek games with some local and in-state teams that are going to be challenges. Georgia Tech is always a fun home and away that we usually play every year in non-conference in the middle of usually conference play, I believe. I'm trying to look where the first Georgia Tech game is. Yeah, it looks like it's in the middle of non-conference. So I have no clue where I would rank, where I would predict this baseball team. It's a weird year. So we're coming off one of those years where Auburn had a very surprisingly bad year. And the year before that had a, not surprisingly, but just a great year. And so you really don't know what to expect, but there's a lot of energy, whether it's the new talent, there's a lot of familiar faces, phenoms like your Ike Irishes and many others that are going to be here. So Auburn baseball has a lot to be excited for, whether we're talking about facilities, wins, losses, experiences all together with Auburn baseball. We hope that you all are super excited for the 2025 season and what we're going to all experience together today. And hopefully when we get through into conference play, we're going to have a lot more energy. How we'll be covering it here at E2C Network is going to be a little bit up in the air. We have done live streams, like a weekly live stream before, and sometimes those are well attended, sometimes they're not. So you guys determine a lot of times what you want to see from us and what type of coverage. So we'll be talking about them a lot on social media. Don't worry about that. But in terms of live streams and stuff like that, you guys can determine some of that. We will certainly update you on them throughout the season on the Auburn Experience podcast and the episodes that are to come. So I think I have stalled enough for my co-host to get back in there. I think he's ready, so I will bring him back onto the screen. He's giving me a weird look in the background. So Austin, how we feeling?
We're good. Panic just a little bit.
Well, if you're going to leave me high and dry, that was the moment to do it because I was ready to talk about the schedule. So it gave me a time.
Did you see my text?
I did see it, and then I looked over and you were gone. I was like, well,
thought I had a little more time.
It
but
popped
I did
in.
not. Yeah.
Anyway, so why don't we do this? I was rounding out my thoughts. We walked through some of the schedule, non-conference and SEC, just giving them a few reminders. We've also done deeper dives into the schedule previously.
Great.
What
Yep.
you tell me, whether it's a prediction, whether it's a prognostication, what have you, how this season's going to go. Just you have the floor since you've been missing for a little bit.
yeah, I'm a little frazzled. I think that I think it will be better than last year. I know that's not a huge step out because it's what we saw last year. It's just uncharacteristic of Auburn baseball and the Butch Thompson team. I think this team will be better than last year. I think they've added personnel to help them do that. Now, life in the SEC is still not easy. It does not matter how much better you get from a personnel standpoint because other people have gotten just as good, if not better. And so that's just how it is. I think that, I don't know if I have an official prediction off the top of my head at this moment, but there's just still so many unknowns to me. Maybe that's something we do after non-conference, I know we play non-conference midweek but you know what I mean? The
Sure.
main portion of non-conference, which will not be easy because that's right before Vanderbilt comes to town.
Right.
Way, just what a way to kick it off. But I don't see how this team doesn't have a better year than they did last year, just because it was a low point in the program last year. So we will see. There's a lot to like about this team in terms of how they got upgraded with the potential for pitching. There's a lot of veterans, like we mentioned before, that are coming back that have a strong leadership presence on this team. I think you have to be optimistic when you look at this program and where it can go with all those components and making sure last year was just an anomaly. And look, Butch Thompson's still the head of the Auburn baseball program.
You should feel good about that.
As long as that is the case, I feel good.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't feel us in better hands, especially after a year like last year where he's leading, how he leads the program, the type of man he seems to be. Not knowing him really personally, have met him a few times, but I know he's a great coach and a great pedigree. Yeah. So how about this? As a prediction, since we don't have really a record prediction, we're comfortable. I said the same thing, by the way, that there's so many unknowns here. I'm not ready to put something out there. If I did my count correctly, Auburn has 9 SEC series. Basically even, I guess it can't be, it's an odd number, but either way, it's going to be somewhat fair home and away. How many of those 9 SEC series, if I counted correctly, do you think Auburn wins? I know that's a bit of a step out, even a prediction. What do you think?
I'm scrolling through them right here just because I don't want to say a number without knowing who's on the schedule.
How about this? I'll do you one better. Let's do this, and this can be our last piece of this. At home versus Vanderbilt, win the series or no?
I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say yes.
All right, I like it.
I'm going to say yes. On the road at Kentucky.
I'm going to say yes. That Kentucky, to me, I'm a big fan of their coach and the way they play, but I think that's one Auburn can go get.
I say yes as well. At Georgia.
I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no as well there. I believe Georgia's supposed to be pretty good this year.
Yep.
Hosting Alabama.
I think they absolutely can. I think it's very good. It's at Plainsman Park. I'll say yes.
I'm saying sweep. I'm saying
there
sweep.
We go.
Straight up. Listen, I know you don't expect anything more here from Orange and Blue Glasses, but I'm going to say sweep. Hosting LSU. That's a big weekend. I believe that's A-Day weekend. Yes.
A-Day weekend will be big crowds. I'm still going to say no just because the caliber of players LSU usually has.
Maybe I'm just drinking the orange and blue milk right here or something. I'm going to say yes.
Gosh, just say Gatorade. Orange and blue milk.
I don't know why milk popped into my head. I don't know. It was weird. Almost as weird as smelling like corn dogs, but they'll be there all weekend. At Texas. At
Texas, really fun thing for Auburn to get to go to at Texas. Lots of off-season drama with Texas and Texas A&M, right? But I'll say Auburn. I'm going to say Auburn takes that one in a bit of a surprise, but I'll say they take that one.
I'm going to say I'm going to say no, but I would not being opposed to that, your little surprise prediction coming true. Hosting Mississippi State, yes or no, they win the series?
I'm going to say yes there as well.
Yep.
I think Mississippi State is not on a downturn. The baseball at Mississippi State is premier, but I think Auburn can get that one. I think those two programs are not far off apart as most people might think.
Yep, I agree there. At Tennessee, that's a big one.
Yeah, I'm going to say no, and I'm sure there's going to be some shenanigans that end up happening in that one, right or wrong. But I'm going to say no on that one.
That's what I basically alluded to while you were gone from us. Tennessee always is quite interesting. And finally, ending the season with South Carolina.
South Carolina and at Ole Miss, right? They're still.
I'm sorry. Yes, I think I left that one off. I could be wrong. The schedule that I have here in front of me is a little bit kind of kerfuffled here, but
AuburnTigers.com says they have at Ole Miss after home against South Carolina. So, but I'm going to say they split those. I want to say they get both really bad, but something in me says they're going to split. I don't know which one I lean. They get South Carolina and they don't win the series against Ole Miss, but I could see either of those going either way.
I won't call them out, but the website that I have needs to fix it because they're missing at Ole Miss. So you said you win Ole Miss?
I'm going to say you win South Carolina, you lose Ole Miss, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is flip-flop.
Same thing. I'm going to stay with you. The exact same thoughts there. It could Auburn, if they get on a good swing in SEC play, that could be some very key series there for them to really position themselves well for postseason play. So no matter you want to predict, an amazing season, I do. I have one final prediction. Yes or no, Auburn makes the tournament.
In Hoover?
Yes. Start there. Does Auburn make the SEC tournament?
I do think they make the SEC tournament. Yes.
Do you think Auburn makes the NCAA tournament?
I do think they'll make the NCAA tournament. I think they'll have a good enough showing in Hoover to solidify that. It might be shaky ground going in. I don't think they'll be hosting a regional this year. I love nothing more than hosting at Plainsman Park, but I don't think that's going to be in the cards this year.
Number 2 seed though.
I think they can definitely get a 2 seed.
I think that might be where we start setting some expectations and see where we go from there. All right, that's going to do it. That's going to do it for our baseball preview. We hope that you guys are excited for the season. We'll do our best to update you on the Auburn Experience throughout our time in the upcoming episodes with how the season is going for all the Diamond sports, but especially Auburn baseball. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us and being here, part of the Auburn Experience podcast, episode 113. If you want to keep up with me, do so on X at Kyle Loomis 24. Where can they find you?
Yeah, X, Austin G. Scott, X Instagram or whatever, Austin G. Scott. Butchered that, but thanks for sticking with me through my power failures.
Listen, it's probably the first true power failure that you've had. We have gotten a very uncomfortable shot of your lap, essentially, when your camera fell that one time.
That's correct.
That's not on an official episode, but I think I put that out there, unfortunately, for you. But hey, listen, we gotta get the clicks wherever we can, and sometimes Austin's shenanigans are what get the clicks for us.
It typically ends up being that way, and I'm just gonna stop myself right there. Yeah,
you should.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. I appreciate you so much. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
All right, that's going to do it for our recording of the Auburn Experience podcast. I've got a live Q&A. Don't worry, I will take care of Don. Don obviously has 2 burner accounts. When you have to have multiple accounts to come back and put comments, that kind of shows that you're a pretty trash person and that you need some talking to. So we'll address you, Don, here in just a second. But Austin, the floor is yours if you have any final thoughts.
It's better if I don't, but let's everybody just lighten up, and have a great week.
The source of controversy tonight is Austin, apparently, with someone's
ridiculous
feelings.
It's like the 3rd time I've worn this T-shirt, so that shows me how often you tune in, Don.
Yeah.
All right, have a great night, everybody. Enjoy the big game. War Eagle.
The Super Bowl. Sorry. Oh
no.
No. All right, bye. All right, sorry guys, I should have switched it over before that happened there. All right, we'll address Don, and we'll address so many other people since he wants to continue to do that. Listen, we're not afraid to addressing people who are clearly keyboard warriors and need to be put in their place from time to time. So certainly, Don, you wanted your moment of he's probably not even here, honestly, but we'll address you anyway. Other comments, questions, topics, productive derogatory rebuttals, bring those up now in our Q&A time, and we'll certainly talk about that. Let me give you a rundown of what's happening here. I know we're kind of getting on crunch time. The big game is about to, well, the early stuff's about to get going, at least, or maybe has already happened. Here's what you've got coming up here at E2C Network this week to look forward to. You know, we love talking basketball. We're going to have plenty of post-game coverage for you. Auburn versus Vanderbilt. After that, do not sleep on any SEC team, folks. If you haven't learned it by now, you certainly should. Do not sleep on any SEC team. Auburn versus Vanderbilt this Tuesday. Auburn Family Night back again this Wednesday, 9 Eastern time. Keep that in mind. Live call-in show. This would be a great opportunity for you, Don, to call in and not be a coward. So Don's getting what he wanted. And then, of course, Auburn Family Night is here for us as well. Excuse me, I already talked about that. The Auburn-Alabama matchup is going to be a major one. Do not be afraid of that at all. It's going to be a fun one. It is awesome. I love the fact that we have an opportunity to talk about a 1 versus 3, 2 versus 3, whatever it's going to be matchup. I'm excited for that one this Saturday. And check out our links in our description for so many other ways to support us. You can support us by supporting our friends at Alumni Hall. Our link is in our link tree that's in our description on YouTube, posted everywhere else on social media. If you ever need help with that, let me know. It's like a one link to everything, but you can access Alumni Hall through our affiliate link, support them, and support us at the same time. You support yourself by getting yourself some new Auburn gear. So there you go. All right, let's talk about it a little bit here. I'll address some of this first. Big game, Kyle. Are you telling me that the Bowl Sunday falls on Sunday this year? Yes, I know I messed it up. Thank you, WT. Thank you. I was it, which show was it that I forgot when the Super Bowl was? Was it last week on the Auburn Experience? I can't believe it. I can't, believe that. All right, let's see here. I thought there was a comment we needed to address about the team, but I don't think that was it. Let's address Don. Don wanted his moment to shine. He's probably already run off because he's at. So Don posted this comment or a variation of it a little bit earlier in the stream. He got deleted and banned for it because he was clearly here to be a troll and nothing else. If I actually believed what he was saying here and the type of high morals that he's trying to propose here, I'd actually take him seriously. But this is the only comment I've ever seen him make. Probably has done others, but this is it's pretty bad. He says, breathe is you hate breathe. He was referencing Austin's shirt, breathe if you hate Bama, but don't you dare say anything negative about Auburn in our safe space. Absolutely not. In fact, we talk very constructively about some things that need to be addressed. In fact, we've had some very frank conversations about our fan base and some things that they need to do better. So, no, you are making a statement that is based off one interaction that you had and applying it over a whole thing, which shows you're not a reasonable person. He took issue with Austin's shirt. Breathe if you hate Bama. Now, look, hey, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really like that shirt. And that's not a thing against Austin or anything like that. I just don't have one. I've never really liked that style. It's Austin's shirt. It's his thing. He can share what he wants to share here. Do I think that Austin truly hates Bama people? No. I know that he has them in his family. I do as well. Do they annoy me? Yes. But it is the reality. Does he truly hate someone? No. Keeping things in perspective, actually, getting to know someone as a co-host before you make such statements and things like this is an important thing. So, Don, buddy, God love you. Bless your heart. You're just you're a troubled soul, hides behind social media and other things. And tough look for you tonight, sir. Tough look for you. All right. Let's see. Yes, I believe it was the last Auburn Experience that you made the Monday faux pas. Yes, that does sound familiar. I think it's reasonable to think the NFL does things on Monday because that's like the thing they make big things about here. Tim says we could still be number one on Monday based on the fact that we are the only one-loss team and are the only two-loss team on Monday. We were the only one-loss team and are the only two-loss team on Monday. Yeah, I think, Tim, there's going to be a lot of this. There already is a lot of discussion about that, whether it's right now or after. People are going to disagree. If Auburn somehow maintains its number one ranking, there's going to be a lot of kerfuffle about that. But the reality is, if you're able to, not be Don and look at things objectively and not subjectively, you're going to see that Auburn and all the metrics that are out there is still far superior to most teams. Some of those that had the best case, to be in that discussion with them also took a loss. Duke this week. Alabama certainly had a scare, but they won that one. If lucky for them, they didn't lose that one. If they did, they wouldn't even be in this conversation right now. But they're still a great basketball team. So, look, I get excited when Auburn gets to do things like be number one for the second time in program history, to hold it for a record time this time. That's fun to talk about. Does it matter in the grand scheme of things? No, it does not. It really doesn't. What matters is where you finish at the end of the year. But it is certainly fun to talk about it at the time. I just know that this team was going to learn a lot and respond well. And I think they're capable of winning back that number one spot, even if it doesn't come, this week, or they maintain it. Certainly some chaos happened, though. That certainly would help all of that a little bit. Tim also with this said earlier, said my alternate Justin t-shirt, I don't know what Justin is my two favorite teams are Auburn and whoever is playing Alabama. Yeah, I think there's a fine line between true hatred and bad behavior in the Auburn and Alabama fan base. And then there's the ones that can keep it into perspective about such things. There will be people who act like Don did that celebrated when, Auburn lost its trees, belittled that. Frankly, I've told this story a lot, and I know we're a little over time, but I actually lived downtown when it, like the night that Harvey Updike arrived and did that thing. I was probably sleeping less than 100 yards from him. It's kind of creepy to know that a psychopath from a fan base that breeds that type of stuff. Yeah, he did it against trees, but if you hate somebody to the level that you will do that, I'm going to question what you might have already done / what, you might do in the future to somebody else. So, that's where when people try to grandstand as Bama fans and stuff like that, I often will look at things and go, yeah, if you're celebrating Harvey Updike, if you're, behaving, if you're yelling a certain curse word, Auburn, in a song, let's not act that way. Let's not act that way. The fan bases are ferocious and great when at their best. Let's keep it in that, keep things in perspective. And certainly there's enough of the rivalry to go around just doing that alone. It meant in funny only. Am I missing the Justin thing, Tim? I don't know what that was about. Maybe that's just me kind of going over me tonight. But anyway, all right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. We appreciate you so much for hanging out with us, even Don, who got his 15 minutes of fame tonight, and being part of the Auburn Experience, our live recording and Q&A for 113. You guys have a great evening celebrating the big game. You guys have a great week. We got lots of content coming up for you here, and we appreciate you participating in this and anything that you can else with us here at E2C Network, the Auburn Experience. Till we talk to you again, War Eagle.